So we're joined all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania by Lavanetta Quince, the uh, product delivery manager for ASTM International. We are in the information technology career cluster, and I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Rosa Scott, Madison Central, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Options Center, my good friend Tiffany Turnage over there at the Madison County Career Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time for us to talk about your incredible career in technology.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm always excited to talk to youth, especially because I got exposed to engineering and STEM in high school. So this is the perfect opportunity to really grab the attention of everyone and talk about the different opportunities that are in technology.
That's awesome. Now, before we get into all you do and all you have done, tell us about your background because you went to Alabama A&M. We'll let
Yes,
you
I
make it.
did.
This is Jackson State territory, so we'll let you make it as a SWAT rival today. And then you got an
I
MBA from
should have
Penn
put on a
State.
shirt.
You know, quite an impressive combo there with the HBCU PWI combo. So take us back to your undergrad and grad experience and the different experiences you get because there's huge pros and cons of both to have the HBCU undergrad and then the PWI grad school.
Yes. Well, first, yes, I did go to Alabama A&M University, the best school in the SWAC. And I was a computer science major. And that was by far the hardest thing I have ever done. Getting that degree to this day academically is one of my most proudest accomplishments. And it has afforded me so many opportunities. What I did like about that experience was I got to meet people who look like me, um, Black and brown people. Let me just be clear. It wasn't just brown people, Black people, but it was, we had a nice, there were Hispanics at the school, Southeast Asians. So, but what was good about that was I got to meet people from different walks of life. And I also got to meet people who were in the sciences and who were in career fields I never would have considered. I met a lot of psychology majors. What?
Wow.
Yeah, that was not anything that I grew up around. So it exposed me to so much more than what I was experiencing from Black and brown people where I grew up. I'm originally from Pontiac, Michigan. It's a pretty diverse area, but being from Michigan, it really is, a town where everybody works at a factory. And you have some execs, but that's not the norm. So it was so good to see that. And I enjoyed the rich heritage of going to a historically Black university, especially because there was a time that that was the only way we could get educated. We were not allowed to go to other institutions. How I ended up at Penn State was uh, I had started my career and I felt like I could do more. And a master's degree was something that I always wanted, just an educational goal. And the experience that I had there was different. Most of the people were already professional folks. They had careers or they had really great internships and they were coming because, I don't know, their job was paying for it. But then you had the whole demographic of folks who really wanted to take it and go further. And what I found about that was there was a level of professionalism that I was exposed to among my peers, where our conversations and the work that we did was so much more enriched. And that's what was different. You're an undergrad, you don't know, everybody's broke eating a cheese sandwich, trying to figure it out. Grad school was different among professionals, among a whole cadre of different people and thought processes, but we all have similar kind of jobs. We're here trying to get this master's. So that's how it was different for me. I appreciated both experiences and I have gained a lot from both experiences. And I think adding business on top of the technical part has made me a better professional overall.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned a couple of things that I kind of wanted to hit on is that
Okay,
one thing I always say is that historically Black does not mean exclusively Black
correct.
because especially now, here at Jackson State, I know Alabama A&M is the same way. A lot of international students, a lot more white students are starting to go there because of the educational opportunities. And I think that's important to understand is that, look, actually have a feature coming out soon that I was able to contribute to about how rural Black communities especially in Mississippi, were left out of opportunities. I know it was the same way in Michigan, where
Yeah.
certain communities were left out of occupations. But those times have changed. There are opportunities now that never existed for your grandparents, our kids' grandparents, where they can really get into some great careers that make a lot of money. And I think it's important to understand. I know we have a good relationship with Jackson State and Alcorn here, and there's great professors from all walks of life and students from all walks of life where you can really get that great degree that is needed in technology. And
Yes.
but also you mentioned about how getting a good experience from both. There, if some kids that they don't want to do the HBCU, that's fine. We have a lot of great schools here in Mississippi, but the PWI also can offer great opportunities for any student. Now, I know, and you mentioned also about being good in business makes you good in tech. One thing I'll always say is that if you can work with people, if you can sell, you can have good personal skills, and then have good tech skills, it's amazing how far you can go in technology.
It is very true. Technically, if you are a technical person, you tend to be a type A, you're kind of matter of fact, let's get to it, don't have time for the pleasantries, prove why my theory is wrong. That's kind of what you do because you need that personality in that space. But when you go for business and you're interacting with business people, those soft skills that you didn't know you needed, yeah, they're kind of evident and in your face, like, hey, you could be right, but that delivery's not the best. Or this is so technical, present it to us in a way that we can understand. And you're not talking to other technical people. And that's what I gained out of that. Because I was so used to, I was a developer at the time, like, yeah, I'm just writing code. And so it's going to do these things. And they're kind of like, what? Okay, well, wait. Now I have to bring it in a language that you guys can get. And it does make you better overall because then when you come into a room and you can talk to whomever's in the room, you're not requested to be in the room. They don't want to have the conversation about things without you. And that's what you want. You
Absolutely.
want to be at the
Yeah.
table.
Yeah, and we won't rattle off your entire resume because it's quite impressive, but you've really got experience in tech in multiple fields. And one thing I always say is that no matter where you go, there's somebody in tech that had a hand in it. When you go to McDonald's and are ordering on the kiosk, somebody in tech had to program that. When you stay at a hotel, a software system had to have your reservation. When we're here at school, there are tech people behind the scenes that handle our devices. When you go in the hospital, there are tech people that handle all those health informatics. So literally every field, especially some of these growing technology and financial fields, need tech people, and these tech jobs are not going away.
No, you will see more opportunities come in technology, especially in AI. AI is the next generation of listen, I'm old enough to remember AOL dial-up. I was in 8th grade when that came out. I couldn't wait
Don't
to
date
get
us.
and right and block the phone. But it's the next evolution. And it's nothing to be afraid of, but it's still in its infancy. So this is the perfect time to get in there and find the parts of the AI that you like and really capitalize on it. Because it is just, it's already part of our everyday life, but the opportunity to make it a career and to capitalize off of what it can offer, this is the prime time. It's still in diapers. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Now, again, and we're not discouraging anybody to go to college because, like we said, we got some great computer science programs in
yeah,
Mississippi, Alabama, all nearby. But we have some kids that are kind of on the fence about college. Paying for college could be a real concern for their family. But
yeah,
tech is one of those fields where you don't necessarily need a 4-year degree to get into and make a lot of money.
right.
The military now, especially, really is giving some state-of-the-art technology training, and people are getting 5 years of military experience with tech certifications and making 6 figures coming out. There are
I
community colleges that are doing 1-year programs, and you can start working in IT at 19 years old and start making really good money. So,
mhm.
what are some of the other entry points in tech that maybe didn't exist when me and you were coming through school?
Oh my goodness, there are so many of those. So first thing I will say is it's a beast and there's so much out there, but Amazon Web Services, if you go to Amazon Web Services site, they have so many free things that you can take. And then they have paid levels of information and classes that you can take for as low as like $30 a month, where you can get on and you can learn how to be a cloud architect and take certificate and get yourself to the place to take certifications. Google offers the same thing. They offer a similar path to, specific to Google. These are things that did not exist. I was here before Google showed up. So they had none of that, but you can go and get that for little or nothing. And if you are interested in STEM, I encourage you to go check that out. See if there's anything there that piques your interest. Take a class. They have lots of free stuff. And they always will have a path for you to get their certification. Now, the certification is going to cost you, and you may have to pay for a class or two in certain things here or there, but I encourage you to do it. Microsoft, very similar path. Azure is their baby. They want Azure engineers. They want people who are experts in it. They offer tons of free stuff on their site. It's just doing your due diligence to go to those sites and see what they offer, what's in your price point, what can you take free, and plan your way to your success. You have opportunity to do that now. There's more paths now than there ever have been.
Yeah, and we hadn't talked about this, but we have a couple of ways that our high school students, as they go through high school, can get certifications before they graduate. I mentioned my friend Tiffany Turnage over there. She teaches our IT program, which is a 2-year program they can do in 11th and 12th grade. We have an engineering and robotics academy where they get a lot of AI and robotics programming experience. So these are things they can do in high school and be ready pretty much to move into these tech fields right as they graduate.
Yeah. And what's good about that is when you come out of high school with that certification, you can decide if you want to go for more education or use your certification to first start off as an intern. Because if you don't have experience, I'm not going to tell you with your certification, you're just going to pop up and somebody will hire you. It can happen, but look for an internship to really get your feet in there and get wet, and be okay with the low pay that it might offer, because the experience and that hands-on is what you want to gain. And once you can put, I worked as an intern for this company and I did this, now that really just blows the roof off, because you have credentials and you have experience. Now, you are beginning to chart your own path.
Yeah, and that's interesting you said that. We have another guest of this class that's here in Mississippi, and he got a computer science degree from Alcorn, and he is very pro HBCU, very pro college. But he said, "Look, I don't even use my degree. He's had to learn several programs, and we talked about it touches every field. He manages a $7 billion account for the state of Mississippi in the Department of Revenue. He doesn't know the first thing about finance. He doesn't know the first thing about how the taxes are collected. He just knows the server can't go down. And he told us out of his own mouth, he's looking to hire 19-year-olds that have experience in the systems that he uses."
Let me tell you, you get to a point in your career where being in the weeds is not what they need. They need somebody who can look across the whole system and say, I need this skill and I need a person that can handle this. And so after you've had that experience for a while, you can look and say, I've lived through this nightmare, that one, I had that. Okay, I need these type of people. Please don't tell me I have to monitor the servers and make sure they never go down.
Yeah.
Hats off to that guy.
Yeah.
So I'm the person that makes sure you have all the things you ask for. So if you want, this thing to do cartwheels on the site when they put it into the shopping cart, I'm the person that's going to make sure there's a team that builds it for you. And having that 50,000 foot view is very important, and you begin to see where you need those people. And that's why it's so important. Like, hey, if you're not going to go to college, that's okay. Find those paths to where you want and start with all of the free stuff and feel your way through it. Because I knew going through the door, I wanted to quit computer science a lot. I stuck with it, but I wanted to quit. And I didn't really have chance to kind of feel my way and make sure this was it. So when you decide to go a non-traditional path, you do have a little wiggle room to change your mind too. And it
and
or nothing.
Yeah, and something else that we've heard a few other people talk about, and I thought this was interesting. I never thought about this, is getting a degree in maybe marketing or a business, but at the same time going through Google boot camps and getting certifications. So when you graduate, you have the certifications for tech and you have a college degree, and then that makes you even more marketable for a variety of fields.
Yes. That's why I went back for my MBA, because I felt like this computer, this tech thing is good, but I need a little something else. I need a little more Because then it presents opportunities that are not just there for somebody who's a developer and they are a full stack developer and they develop in Python and this is what they do. You got a little more meat on the bones and a little more to work with. And I think it
Yeah.
opens up opportunities that you may not have previously been considered for if you don't have the marriage of the two.
Now tell me about it. Now you mentioned something before, and I think
Mhm.
every teacher that sees this letter can agree with me on this because a lot of kids they say they want to do tech, and that's great because we need them, but they think they can just sit at home and not have to deal with people. But the ones that can deal with people, and the ones that can sell, and the ones that can have customer service skills are the ones that make even more money. And I told the story last block. When I was working at LSU, we had a new software system we rolled out. And the guy flew down from Canada and trained us for a month. And I don't even want to know how much money he made to do that because he was explaining to people that did not know how to use the system, how to use the system.
Yes. So let me dial that back a bit. So even if you decide that you want to be a tech person and you want to work on servers and or maybe you want to write code and you want to build stuff, there is still a team of people you're working with. There is still lines of responsibility and accountability in that. So you never get away from having to deal with other people. What happens is the conversations and the meetings that you're in may be different. It's not going away. So it's not you're at home in your hoodie typing away at the computer and you don't have to deal with folks. Is that a chunk of the job? Yes. But at some point, here's the conversations of the check-in and the code review and does architecture need to look at? There's always somebody that you're going to have to deal with. And so what I want to also address here for that developer, that really type A, I got this personality, there's a place for that. All I can say is humility will go a long way. Please make yourself available for the critiques, work on those skills to be able to get feedback and to give it, and to be able to talk to people in a way that you would want them to talk to you. And when you keep that
Absolutely.
stuff in mind, the communication is easy. You'll have people eating out of your hand because you know how to talk to them like you want to be talked to, and you're respectful even when you're getting feedback you don't really care about. You don't care to get the rough feedback, but it's necessary. And when you're gracious, not only will people continue to give you the feedback, they'll give you opportunity because you have the demeanor to handle the constructive criticism. So
Absolutely.
you don't get away from people.
Oh, not at all. Now, a couple of things I wanted to talk about before I get to their questions is, all of them are watching you on a MacBook right now, so they all are stuck on the iOS systems and the Apple, and
I'm
that's
on a
great because
MacBook.
iOS does offer a lot of things. But how important is it to learn multiple operating systems? Because most companies are going to use Windows. There's a few that use iOS, but Linux operating system really is where it's at right now.
I think it depends on company culture. That's just to be honest. If you want to learn multiples, you're not going to be able to go deep. So if you want to decide to learn Windows and Linux, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But be realistic about how much of an expert you are in that thing because there's so many nuances, and knowing all of these different nuances is hard to do when you're focusing on multiple types of systems. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think you should have your favorite and be an expert at that and know a little bit of something enough to be dangerous about another one. And I think that's probably the best balance.
Now, one thing I also wanted to talk about is, and I got to get you in contact with this person. Earlier this year, we had a AI expert from Alabama who read a book about unconscious bias in AI programming, especially in health informatics. And she talked about the lack of diversity in tech jobs and how, it's not that the people doing the programming are evil. It's not that they're racist, but they're not going to have the same mindset as
Right.
people from marginalized groups. And she talked about the need for more and more diverse groups to get into tech because literally people are getting misdiagnosed in hospitals. People are getting overlooked in certain databases, and it's because one of the reasons of that is because there's not enough diversity in tech. So
Yeah.
how much? And I know there's been a huge growth in this, and we're doing a great job of it. But why is there such a need for everybody to have a seat at the table in this field?
I love this question. First, let me tell you, I literally went to an AI summit last night talking about the same thing. The reason that it is important is you never want one view or one opinion on anything because you're not going to have the whole picture. The second part is, here's our opportunity to dispel myths. When you put in ChatGPT or Google Gemini and you say, give me a picture of a lawyer in a fancy suit or whatever it is you put in there, that person that comes back is not by default brown. You have to specify. So that's just the way it was trained. This is why. So we need to get into the technology to be like, we're doctors, we're lawyers. Yes, we're caregivers, we're mothers, we're engineers. We cover more than just, whoever is responsible for programming this. That's why we need to be in there. And what should happen is what you're doing. I just commend you. I wish I was there so I could give you a hug. I think that there is a lack of exposure to the opportunities in tech and how we can get young people of color into it. And I think that is the challenge. And we need pipelines to introduce them to these different areas where they might have interest. You might find that I am really, really good at, designing stuff. So maybe UI, UX design and customer experience work is the route I want to go, but they don't know that if they're not exposed. So I think that's where we need to do better to make sure that we expose Black and brown children to this as an option for a career.
Yeah, and we have a lot of first generation Americans in our district, and with the changing
Oh,
face of
great.
our
Yeah.
country, with more and more immigrants coming every year, there's a big need for them to get in it as well, especially
Mhm.
those with English as a second language. To be
Yes.
bilingual just helps you deal with more people. Now, the
Yes.
last thing I want to talk about before I get to the students' questions is you are also an entrepreneur.
Yes, I
Um,
am.
uh, and it's not your main gig; it's a side gig for you, which I've seen that I didn't realize this. Most entrepreneurs that I'm meeting, they have a full time job or at least a part time job as well. They have that steady income. But even if a kid is not interested in tech, we have so many kids that say, "I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to be my own boss." And look, they hear me say this all the time, but I think this is hilarious. I'm a huge fan of Jasmine Sullivan. But her
Hmm.
song, she talks about, I'm going to move to Atlanta, open a business, and be rich. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
There's so much planning that has to, whether you want to sell clothes, whether you want to open a restaurant, whether you want to be a tech entrepreneur, there's so much planning that has to go into it. And a lot of times you're not seeing a dime for yourself for several months or even
Years.
years. So just talk about the entrepreneurial experience.
Yeah. So I'll say this isn't my first go at trying to be an entrepreneur. I used to sell body butter. I used to work with marketing tools and trying to get people to adopt new technologies around marketing tools. This isn't my first rodeo. Let me dispel a myth. You always have a boss. It could be the client, and that's usually who it is. Your boss is the person that is asking you for something, expecting a quality delivered product or service, and they're paying you. That becomes your boss. And you have to still deal with them in a way that if you were at a regular 9 to 5 getting a check, you still have to deal with them that way. So you're not getting away from having a boss. You're a little bit more in control of your time. You're a little more in control of, maybe the type of clients you take, but you still have a boss. And do not think it is overnight. You are not going to wake up with this fabulous idea and get it started the next day and automatically make money. I don't care what they tell you on YouTube. I don't care what the TikTok video tells you. The reality is, especially if you're going to be legit, there's a whole lot of administrative stuff that you have to do before you can even say you're a business. Have your ducks in a row, get incorporated. Make sure you have an accountant that can talk to you about how to set up your accounts and how you should manage the money that comes in. Have somebody that can do taxes for you, because your personal income and your business income, they're two different things depending on how you incorporate. It's a lot. You can spend 6 or 8 months just making sure that the foundation is good. Throwing up a website and having the social media presence, that's great, but your other stuff has to be in place as well. Then you got to market yourself, and there's tons. I'm not discouraging anybody, but I want to keep it real. And you may not be successful the first time. I definitely was not. I'm still at it.
Yeah. Yeah, because and there's more and more entrepreneurs that are made for entrepreneurs. We have another
Mhm.
friend of this class in the New York area, and she does accounting for small businesses. So she works remotely, she works with technology, and she does all their bookkeeping. And it's just her. But this is where instead of hiring somebody or paying a ton of money for one of these larger firms, she works
Mhm.
one on one with the client and does all their bookkeeping. So that is a huge need
Yep.
that you have to have.
Yeah. And find your niche. It might take, again, as somebody, I'm on trial number 3 with this. It's okay to fail. You learn something every time. You learn something every time. And don't be afraid to fail. It is your biggest teacher, as long as you are failing forward. And when I say that, that means that you're not stopping. You're just back at the drawing board with more information. I think anybody could be an entrepreneur if you've got the grit and you don't mind getting knocked down a few times. You can be successful at it.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to take the financial risk, having an entrepreneurial mindset can make you a great employee, no matter where you're working.
Yeah.
That's the kind of people that move up within a corporation are the ones that think like entrepreneurs.
Yes, because they always need innovation. They always need new things. They always need new every time you turn around, because of technology changes, the particular field might change. And so they call that intrapreneur. You don't want the entrepreneur headache, but an entrepreneur is a very much an asset inside of a company, because they need those fresh ideas, that innovation, that go-getter that's willing to, try some new things and spearhead it, and take the risk, while calculated, take it.
Absolutely. Well, I do have some questions from the students. I'll get to as many of these as I can. This
Okay.
first one is Caden Williams. He's a member of our state championship powerlifting team and our football
All
team here
right.
at Velma. He wants to get into the IT field, but he asked, "How do you keep up with all the new changes in technology?"
I'm going to tell you this. You can get a hold of some newsletters. There's tons of newsletters out there for the whatever particular field that you want. And you can get that sent to your email box just to see what's happening if you have a particular interest. Or I'm a voracious consumer of information. So I watch things like Bloomberg and CNBC, and they talk about the technology, and they talk about it through every aspect of our lives, the technology driving the financial systems. They talk about it. So it sounds boring, but if you're a technical person, you would be surprised at how much you learn and what things are starting to trend just by watching a channel like CNBC or Cheddar. You would be very surprised. That's how I ended up knowing about more than what I anticipated. I'm like, I'm old. Why don't, but okay.
Yeah, and I'm not even a tech person, but I listen to a lot of things just even in the background while I'm working. I'm not sitting there glued to it, but I hear things. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. So I'm even learning things just by hearing people talk about it. And
Yeah,
and there's even in the UK, there's all over the world, they're having the same issues that we have in the United States. So there really is a lot to learn there.
right. Yeah. And it's always new information. You can do your best to stay abreast. You're still behind because it moves quickly.
Hi, this is Rihanna Kelly, and she's in ninth grade, and she asked, "How familiar are you with the organization software and hardware systems when you start a new job?"
You're not. You're not. Here's why I say that. You will know, even with 20 years of experience, you will know a lot, but you won't know specifically how that company decided to implement their software or their hardware. So you will go in with knowledge, but you're going to have to learn how they're doing it at that company. And that learning curve is expected. Okay. There's nothing to be afraid when it comes to that, but know that you will go in with a certain set of knowledge, but now you've got to learn how they do it there, why they're doing it the way that they're doing it as well. What was the thought process? And then you can go in and master it once you've had some time with it. It's going to take you, anywhere from 3 to 6 months to even ramp up, to even speak their language, and to be able to be effective in assisting them with whatever it is they want to do. Don't be intimidated by that. Go in there knowing that you're going to have to learn some stuff.
Absolutely. Well, I got time for two more. This is Christian McGee. He's also one of our state champion powerlifters
All right,
and
the
a
power
football
lift
player.
guys. Okay.
Yeah, well, our powerlifting coach has been nationally recognized. So we're big in powerlifting here. We've won several state championships in sports, but powerlifting, we really kill it here. But he
Okay.
asked, what's the hardest job you've ever had to work on?
Woo. I've had a couple of digital transformation jobs. And what that basically is, yeah, I've had in my roles, I've had to do some digital transformation where they've had like a bunch of legacy systems and data all over the place. And we need to retire these systems and bring online a new system. That by far is the hardest job because we're talking about stuff that predated me being born. Why is this
Yeah.
still here?
And
And those
that's gonna
jobs,
keep happening. That's gonna keep
yes,
happening all the time.
yes, because as technology changes, data changes, the way we store and use information, all of that changes. But I did that. I worked at a defense contractor. That was the first time I ran into that. And there was like 5 or 6 different systems. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? But it was
You
also the
can
most rewarding.
you can name drop that was Lockheed Martin. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
it was
awesome.
Lockheed Martin. Yeah, thank you. That was by far the hardest. And where I am currently, we went through a similar thing. I was given a pile of data and we had to create products out of it. Digital
Wow.
transformation is tough, but it's rewarding because then you
Absolutely.
see the end product.
I got one more. This is Herbert Carmichael. He's also in ninth grade. Really into coding, really into software game design. That's really what he
Okay.
loves. But he wants to get into the tech field as well. And he asked, What is your favorite part of your career?"
Um, I like to see the end product,
Oh yeah,
and I actually enjoy the strategy before we do one thing to get in the room and kind of fight out how this needs to be built and what you're trying to accomplish. I like that so much because, part of me is like, I told you when we finish it. But I really enjoy the strategy and making sure that we build and we put quality stuff out. And the scrutiny that goes into it so that when it comes out on the other side, it's a beautiful painting.
yeah, big time, and that's got to be so rewarding. It's really to the tangible
Mhm.
rewards. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us because this is a career that's not going away. But the last thing
Right.
before we go, and you mentioned about these careers are going to keep growing, they're going to keep being in demand. And the opportunities that were there when me and you were coming up are not there, and they have or were not are here now, and
Mhm.
they have not always been for everybody. But now these kids have never had a greater opportunity to jump into these
Right.
careers and to every field because there really are IT people in every field. So why should these kids really consider getting into a career in technology?
So I'll say this, if you want your voice heard, if you want the voice of your community heard, technology is a way to do that. And getting your hands in that is one of the best things you can do for yourself and your community. Secondarily, the wage gap that exists is now shortening because we have opportunity and finances are not a variable as much as they were when I was coming up.
Big time.
Yeah, so you want to improve your financial situation and that of your family. This is the route to go. Because, Chick-fil-A already has robots serving food. So some of the traditional things that we've seen, the robots will be doing it. So now how are you going to begin to secure a future for yourself and your family? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, and we could talk about it for days, but
Yeah.
again, we'll definitely have to do this again. We thank you so much for taking some time for us. I was trying to say your name right. Lavanetta Quince.
Lavanetta, yeah.
Lavanetta Quince. I'm sorry.
Thank
Lavanetta
you.
Quince,
Thank you.
all the way from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Bye guys. You guys can reach out anytime. I'm on LinkedIn if you wanna reach out.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll definitely do this again, but we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, have a good one.
See ya.